If cooperation and submission were the same thing, then they would be the same word. So, to me, as a woman, cooperation means teamwork. Submission means in an area where you and I's opinions differ, I'm going to take a back seat and allow you to make the final decision, right?
No.
And so as women, when we hear men um, use those two words interchangeably, it becomes kind of problematic to us. And I think I'm going to assume I'm mistaken. You can let me know if I'm wrong. She probably picked up on the same thing. Of to us, they don't mean the same thing. The way that they're applied in a relationship are significantly different from the woman's perspective. So now that you hear that, do you still take the same stance that they're interchangeable?
So I don't see it necessarily. First of all, I see a relationship itself as teamwork, right? Like to me, it's two people working together to achieve the same goal. Like our goals must be aligned in order for it to be a successful relationship. Give me 1 second. Are you okay? Um,
Uh,
so with that being said, when I think of the word cooperate, and we can actually pull up the definition because I believe words matter. Um, when I say we're going to the store, like your job is to go to the store. When I say we're going to the store, like there's it my like I believe my word is if I'm operating from the right space, because we got to keep that in mind. This is coming from healthy relationships. Um, it, like it is submission is just a deeper form of cooperation. Like it's more like you're giving your will to me. I guess is kind of the same, kind of the same.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I had asked
I,
because I found it to be different. And even in a discussion with my husband, I asked him, "Would you prefer me to be submissive? Would you?" I asked, "Do you want me to be submissive?" Like in my mind, like hearing when in these spaces what guys consider submissive, I'm not the one. Like I'm not. According to like I said, what I heard, what that looks like. And his response was, "No, I would rather you be cooperative." So even for him, I think there was a slight difference. And as we discussed it more, it was more along the lines of what he felt submissive was that he that meant that he is the dictator. Not that I have much say so in anything, that like in that type of leadership, it is he is always the manager saying do this, do that, you know what I'm saying?
right.
Whereas the cooperative aspect is this is what needs to be accomplished. And coming up, sometimes it may be, oh, we can do it like this, or I can bring something to the table and say, oh, maybe it'll work better this way. That I have that flexibility, to provide that input to work towards whatever the outcome that we want to have. Whereas the submissive part, I don't necessarily get that input, to that decision.
Okay, so let me see, make sure I understand. You guys, you ladies, are seeing submission as the final word. I need to do what you say, and I'm submitting myself to whatever you say. And you see cooperation as an opportunity for you guys to work with alongside. Am I understand? Am I
yeah,
understanding?
Correct.
collaboration. Yep.
Correct.
That's fair. Submissive is a synonym, by the way, of cooperation. But I agree, I can agree to that point. But it's when you become uncooperative because you're obviously not being submissive is where the problem in the relationship happens. So I actually agree with your husband. I'd much rather have you cooperate than you be fully submissive. But at the end of the day, we're not going to really do much arguing about. what I say needs to be done. So,
Mhm.
like, you're going to cooperate with what I'm suggesting you do. And yes, in a
Mhm.
healthy relationship, a man will take input from his female. I mean, what's the point of having a female or a mate? You're not gonna listen like that. That's obscene to me. And I hear in these spaces, oh no, 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 you do and I direct, and that's insane.
Mhm.
That's absolutely insane. Which is why I led with I can't stand these YouTube talking points, because in practice, in healthy relationships, that's not how it works. That's
So
Agreed.
simply just not how it works. Yes, yes, ma'am.
And I want to say, because somebody made a point and they wanted to go into that point. And I agree somewhat with what you're saying, but that goes back to when we get these men who saying, "Oh, you're too picky," or "You have your preferences too much." Because ideally, if you want a woman to submit to you wholeheartedly, you have to prove yourself as being a great leader. Nobody's going to give you their all and trust your leadership if you have poor leadership skills. I mean,
Mhm.
a whole group of people trusted Hitler, and we see what happened there. We know that there are great leaders and they're not so great leaders. So I think that. And can you pull up Harrison's Jr. Can you pull up Harrison's comment, because I think that that's what he was trying to. I think that he was trying to.
I can read the comment. So it
Okay.
says, from a biblical standpoint, a man's level of leadership isn't the reason for a lack of submissiveness. Um, I agree with that statement only because biblically, a woman can only submit to her husband. However, we're talking about dating and vetting and courting.
And
You
people
are
get
not,
those two things, they get
yeah,
them
they're not
confused.
the same thing. You are not owed any level of submissiveness because you have not proven yourself to, one, be a leader, two, you have not submitted to God to lead this person, this woman just yet, right? And so in these stages, when women are in the dating, vetting, courting stages, when women are being criticized for not submitting, you don't meet the qualifications, sir. Secondly, I did want to kind of circle back to tap what you were saying. I wholeheartedly disagree with you. I think you can absolutely be submissive and not cooperative. I think you can, whether this man wants to hear your opinion or not, still state your opinion and allow him space to still make the final decision. To me, in that circumstance, you are not being cooperative, but you are still submitting to his decision. You are still, whether he wants to hear you or not, vocalizing your perspective. Again, I understand that you prefaced it in a healthy relationship where a man is willing to hear his woman out. However, we're going to be talking to the general public. It's not typically the dynamic that we're talking about. And even just like glancing at the chat, there are several gentlemen who do not want to hear anything that a woman has to say. So I'm
Raise your
speaking
hand if
for,
you're married in the chat.
I
Let
mean,
me
Yeah.
there's that too, right? But I'm just saying, like, there are certain circumstances where a woman feels the need to. I think I can't remember if it was Curves or Shan or Mistaken who had brought up how men pull the masculinity out of a woman sometimes. Sometimes that need to be uncooperative and vocalize something against a man's will is a form of protecting herself because her perspective is significantly different than a man's. That if I do not tell you what I'm seeing from my vantage point, I'm in a position of fear that you're missing something that I'm seeing. And so, in order to protect myself, I need to let you know what it is that I see, what I feel, what I interpret is going on in the world. You can do with it as you please, but then the fault cannot be put back on me for not vocalizing what it is that I'm seeing, feeling, perceiving, right? That is uncooperative, but the fact that you get to make the decision, that's still submissive. So you can absolutely, because for me they're not mutually exclusive, you can be uncooperative and still be submissive.